Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to wire up the JDM accent lights on this Subaru BRZ on the 2022 model. So we're going to replace this with this. So for today's tools, you're going to need a crimper, a wire stripper, a 12 millimeter, a 10 millimeter, and a pick or a small flathead screwdriver. So as many of you guys know, if you follow some of the Facebook groups and things like that, some of these have been installed. We've seen a couple ways that it's been done. We've pulled this whole bumper off ourselves. We've dug through, and what we found out is this connector is exclusive to Japanese cars. So in the US, this car does not have this plug that we could find as of yet. When you place an order with us, we actually have a very unique kit that we've developed here. It's nothing proprietary or special, but this will give you options however you want to install this. We are going to remove this clip for you, this connector, and we're going to put an H11 fog light connector on here. We've ordered them in bulk like this. They're coming in. We'll leave a link below when they're ready. So let me show you what that's going to look like. So what we do is we remove this and we add the standard H11 connector. We're including with the kit a modified H11 fog light harness. Okay, we are going to give you this kit with the purchase of the lights from us. This is something we're doing exclusively kind of for the community. And with this kit, we're going to show you how we wire it, and you can have options if you want to wire it differently. For example, if you want to wire this in a different way than we're going to show you, the options are endless. You can turn this on to an ignition. You can have this turn on with your parking lights or your running lights. So we're going to show you a couple ways and go over it in this guide. Okay, so first let's get these OEM style air ducts off. So you have to remove the two inward bound, the most inner clips here and here. One is the most forward and then one is here. So you just get your little tool. I'm using a little pick tool and I'm coming in and removing both of these. We're gonna fold this down, and if you look up in here, there's two clips. This one does not need to be removed, and this one up here is the one that you're looking to get at. So I'm gonna get my pick tool in, I'm gonna lift the center out, and I'm gonna pull it out. Now we're gonna go to the front of the car and we're going to pull the piece out. But before we do that, we can wiggle these tabs up and down a little. These are what's actually holding it in. And there's about a dozen or so of these things all around. I'm not actually depressing them and pulling it out. You can, but I found that just going to the front, being a little aggressive with it is gonna work. Okay, so now that we removed the upper clip, which is about in this location here, I'm gonna reach my hand in, I'm gonna put it behind the vents, and I'm gonna just aggressively pull this out. And once that starts coming, wiggle the rest out. And this is what we got, and that's where that clip was right there. All right guys, I don't know what step this is, I wasn't really counting, but this is the time where we get the wiring harness and we start feeding the wires through the car. The best way to do this, honestly, is to remove the bumper. Removal video, we'll put it up here in the corner. You guys can follow that step by step. But we know a lot of you guys will be working from home. So as we've seen in the previous car, you're gonna feed these down into this area here. So you got one that's gonna be on the driver's side and one that's on the passenger side. The driver's side is gonna have nothing else to it. So it's just this harness here. The passenger side has a ground and the actual plug itself. And then it also has this, which is what we're gonna feed up into the fuse box area. Now this is where you can get creative and do something else yourself. If you wanna tap into the front side markers, you can cut this right here or however back far you want. We've provided this with you. It's up to you to do whatever you want with it. This you can cut and you can tap into the side markers themselves. You got two of these, one on the left, one on the right side, and you'll still be able to unplug this and remove your bumper if you ever need to. The reason we don't recommend doing that is just for warranty purposes. This is untraceable. If you ever have a problem with your car, you can remove this from the fuse box or wherever you made the connection. These can be removed from the car as well. Okay, so we already removed the bolts here. Now we're gonna remove these clips. These are different than the ones underneath the car. Best way is to come in from the back side so you don't hit this like I almost did. Okay, what this does, and this is more for you at home guys, however you wanna do it, but the objective is you gotta get this harness, like I said a second ago, down to this side. Okay, by removing everything, now I can clearly just remove this. I'm just gonna set it here for a minute. What this will do is allow you to lift this up a little bit. It has a little bit of flex and some play. We tested it. You'll be able to, now that the lights are out, like I showed you guys in the front, you'll be able to get this fed through here and down to the accent light location where it needs to be. So let's get to wiring this, and then I'll come back to you guys and we'll talk about where we're gonna make the connection for the power for this unit. Now that we've got the wiring all ran, and that's gonna be like your choice how you wanna do it. Again, we recommend pulling the bumper, but some of you guys will be able to feed this stuff through down to the holes, and all you need is you need to get that wire down there, okay? I'm gonna show you actually how we did the ground in a minute. when I actually do the installation and plug the actual accent light in. But first, let's get some power to these guys. So in the fuse box here, I'm gonna use a T-tap that we're gonna supply with the kit. These are used pretty commonly on a lot of cars. And again, this isn't the all-in-one solution to actually have it to a switch, but this is a chance where you can take this yellow wire, and if you want to hook it up to anything else, you can do it yourself. We're just trying to provide some solutions for you guys so you guys can wire these up yourself without cutting and damaging things. So first, we're gonna remove the fuse box. And we've already gone through and figured some of these out and done some testing for you guys. On the back side here, let's zoom in. This one right here, and this little tool is in the front here, so you guys can grab this. We're gonna remove this 7.5, okay? And this is an ignition too, okay? So that means that these lights are gonna turn on every time the ignition is on. Again, this is if you wanna do it differently, you can take them and tie them into the parking lights or anything like that. To make this actual fuse work, this is a double fusible link. So to keep it so it's not gonna modify anything, we're gonna put the 7.5 amp fuse back in this lower location. And we're gonna provide you with a 10 amp fuse. What we're gonna do is we're gonna push this in. It's gonna cover up this fuse. It's gonna pop in there. Now we automatically have power, okay? We've already tested this. I can show you that this gets power once we key on. I'll show you how we did it actually. Okay guys, so here's the diagram, just so you guys have a little bit of clarification. And you can read through these things. We're tapping into this ignition 2, which means when the vehicle turns on, that this is gonna give this feed power, okay? And we're gonna show you how we test that. So we have a standard test light here, and by basically turning ignition on and us putting this in here, like right now it's a ground, we're gonna show you that it pops this light on real quick here. So please, let's turn the ignition on. As you can see, and then let's turn the ignition off. Okay, there you go. And so every time this light, now just think of your accent lights, that's what's gonna happen. So this is the feed, the wire that we talked about, the harness. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug in the new harness that we created for you, or the plug itself. Follow the colors, which is important on this, or you're gonna have to pull it back out. So this has black on one side and blue on the other. Black is our ground, which I'm about to show you where we grounded this. And then blue is the power, which I'm gonna show you the final connection in just a couple of minutes. So again, we're gonna take this and we're gonna put the black side with the black so the ground stays together, because these LEDs are polarity sensitive. That's it, so that's clipped in. It's got the weatherproof seal there. We're gonna feed this in, and obviously you can wrap it up underneath the car. On a permanent installation, you're gonna pull this tape off. We're not gonna do it for this video, as this will be coming back off soon for other testing. So we're gonna line up all these clips. And then we're just gonna push it in. There you go. Okay guys, one of the last steps, we got 2 more to go, is we need to ground this. It's very important to ground the system while you're down here making your connection. So we've got the H11 harness here, and up in here is where the ground is. So I undid this bolt, so you do need to undo this, and you need to put the ground behind it, tighten it back up real quick, or you can find yourself another ground if you choose, but this is where we went to. And just to clarify, this is a 12, so you just want to get this nice and snug once you get that ground back on. There's also another tip, sometimes you want to scratch it so that it's not going right to paint. Okay guys, one final step worth mentioning. Sorry I didn't tell you on the other side, but you need to put these clips back in, and that will help prevent it from any issues. Just pop that in, and then this side is complete. And then you want to seal this back up by putting these 2 clips back in as well. It's moving up top. We're in the final stages of getting these things powered up, but we need to replace everything, put everything back the way it was. So we're gonna put this back on, and we're gonna put our bolts in where the bolts go, and where push pins go, we're gonna put push pins. And this, you can use an impact. You just need to get them good and tight. You need to make sure like this is underneath. Same thing on this side, just make sure this is underneath this area right here. So we're just gonna push these back in. 10 millimeter again. I like to start from the center, work my way out. All right guys, we're at the final step. We're gonna make the connection to these lights to get them powered up. Everybody has one of these. This is just your typical wire stripper. So you can strip the wires here, and it tells you which different gauges and stuff like that. To me, that looks like it's gonna be a 12 or maybe a 14. And I'll show you exactly what we're gonna do in 2 seconds. I'm gonna use my strippers that I prefer to use all the time. They're just a lot sharper, and I'm gonna use my own cutter. But this tool will suffice. You would actually use the blue crimper on this side here, and that's just the size differences. So let's get to it. remember we did this a little bit ago? So now we just need to feed this in. So we need to strip this wire, put it in. How are we gonna do it? Once we put the fuse cover on, this is actually gonna create like a pinch. So what a lot of people did on the first generations is they used a tool like this and they cut away in a little spot here or a little spot on this section here to let the wire feed through. And I'm gonna show you another tip too that you could do. This is a little bit of work, but if you look down inside here, if you actually look down in some of these, they're actually like holes where this wire will feed down through. So what I'd prefer to do, and the proper thing to do would actually be to feed a wire through and pull this wire back up if you really want that super clean installation. So, and then you would bring this up underneath here, have this come through the box, and it would be like super, super clean. All right, guys, let's make the connection to this. There are other ways around this I've seen people do. You can check for previous fog light installation videos on the previous generation cars. What you're gonna run into is you're gonna run into pinching the wire if you put this down all the way. But if you want that clean look, there's other ways to do it. You can unbolt some of this fuse box, feed the wire through. But for us, for simplicity and for not modifying this car, we're gonna get this in here. So let me strip this wire back. I'm gonna strip it back about this far. Throw that away. I'm gonna twist this wire. I'm gonna give it a fold over just to make sure it's got a lot of wire to grab onto once we put it in the butt connector here. And again, ideally, I would prefer to solder this, but this connector's here. This is how we're supplying the kit to you guys. Okay, there it is. You wanna check your connection. You wanna give it a quick pull. So I did a really good job crimping it. Again, this isn't my ideal situation. I would prefer to twist it, solder it, and then tape it, and then loom it. So let's go into the ignition and turn the ignition on and check out these lights, and then we'll get this cover back on. What I'm gonna do, I'm literally just gonna leave this cover on loosely. I'll clip one side, and I'm not gonna pinch my wire. So again, that's up to you guys. We're just showing you how the kit can actually work, and let's go from there. All right, guys, we're gonna show you guys some rollers with this, but that pretty much wraps up the installation of these accent lights from Subaru. It's the JDM accent light, as it's dubbed. Again, you can wire it two different ways. You can wire it directly to the parking light if you want, into the side marker. As I showed you guys, just cut the harness that we provide, tap it in there. You have to do your own wiring, or you can wire it up to the fuse box like we did, or you can wire that yellow wire to a switch or however you want. So again, this is just our temporary solution so that you guys can get these lights working. Again, ours are hooked up to the ignition. Enjoy.